feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Disciples of Ed here on the Always Next Year podcast. Back after a little bit of a hiatus as we kind of went through some structural changes within the Always Next Year podcast, but back with another episode talking Philadelphia Flyers hockey. The Flyers, of course, will be in action tonight facing the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're coming off a 3-2 win over Washington, their first game back home after a lengthy and unsuccessful road trip.
Flyers just cannot go out west.
Yeah, it was, let's see, they went 1-4-1, I believe was the record. The trip that took them a 6-1 loss in San Jose, 2-1 overtime win in Anaheim, a 5-3 loss in Los Angeles, 5-4 loss in Vegas, a 6-2 loss in Arizona, and then a 5-4 overtime loss in Carolina. So a brutal road trip in which they only got 3 points. But they come back home and they beat one of the best teams in the NHL by a 3-2 final on Wednesday night. So it's like night and day, the difference between how they play at home and how they play on the road. And does this concern you at all?
Yeah. All across Philadelphia sports, it seems like this is kind of the
Sixers are the exact same way.
The entire Brett Brown tenure has been that way. And that to me, we've been through different coaching staffs now. We have a different front office. The core is here. We've defended the core at nauseum here on DOE and every other name that we've gone by over the last 2 years. The people or the pieces that haven't changed are that core leadership group. At a certain point, it is indefensible to sit there and look. And again, taking a look at, if you want to look strictly statistical basis, like Claude Giroux performed, Jake Voracek performed, Sean Couturier performed. JVR is going to do what JVR does. I think he's not a good hockey player, at all. But I know that I'm on the far end of the spectrum of hate on JVR.
I wouldn't go that far. I don't like how he's underperformed in terms of his contract. But yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah.
But you take a look at those guys, and sure, they perform. And in an odd kind of comparison right now, we're listening to the broadcast for the NFL playoff game that's going on right now with the Vikings and the 49ers. And they're coming to the defense of Kirk Cousins. And it's a lot of the same type of shit. Kirk Cousins has been fairly consistent-ish in big games versus not big games. The results just haven't always been the same. And there's so many other factors there. So, this is the first time I think that we've seen the Flyers core on a bad road trip swing or consistently bad on the road as a team, but their core is providing those points. I don't know what the core can do to help out some of the younger guys, to help out some of the role-playing forwards and the role-playing defensemen. I don't know what can happen and what can work, but they got to figure it out, and I don't have an answer for it.
You know what's pretty alarming? The Flyers have not won a road game in regulation since November 27th.
Yeah, I believe it.
That was a 3-2 win at Columbus. Since then, their next road game after that was a 4-3 overtime win in Montreal. That was the Provorov game winner. And they had a 5-4 shootout win in Ottawa, and then the Kevin Hayes game winner in overtime in Anaheim.
Not enough has been said. And I know it's been talked about, but wow, is Kevin Hayes good? For all the people, and us included, we were skeptical of the contract, not so much the dollars, but the term. Kevin Hayes, we thought, 45, 50-point, center, and okay, that's fine. He's a damn good hockey player.
He's a great penalty killer too. Scored that good. Huge breakaway, shorthanded goal, game winner against the Capitol. That was a thing of beauty too.
And we haven't had that since Mike Richards. We literally have not had a scoring threat or anything other than I hope that we can clear the zone right now and that we can make it difficult for them to enter this zone after a clear. No. As long as Kevin Hayes is on the ice, Scotty Lawton a little bit, but as long as one of the two of them are on the ice, you can flip the ice and score. And that's impressive.
You know what I love about Hayes that doesn't get talked about enough? It's a thing that the team hasn't had in a long time. He's a finisher on breakaways.
Yes.
I don't think he's had a breakaway this season where he hasn't scored.
And he's not overly creative. It's just, he's just has really quick wrists, and he's very decisive. Like, he knows what he's going to do, and he goes for it. You know, I don't know if he's just very well studied on the tendencies of the goaltenders that he's going up against. I have to assume that goes into it. The Flyers are moving towards a more analytically driven organization, which I know makes a lot of people unhappy, but that's because they don't understand what analytics mean and what information is.
People just cringe at the word analytics these days.
It's true. It's like the word analytics is like an actual take now.
Especially in the baseball realm. But
absolutely in the baseball realm. But again, dumb people just can't follow baseball. That's really what it comes down to. And similarly in hockey, like Philadelphia has a lot of really dumb sports people. Like, it is what it is. Like, for sports fans and followers, Twitter's an awful place, man. But backtracking here to Kevin Hayes on those breakaways and the way that he can finish, like you mentioned, Rob, you know, to me, he just looks like he's just so much smarter than everyone else that is on the ice, like Flyers included. Like, he's a special dude, man. I'm glad that he's in black and orange.
It's funny, you brought up Van Reem's like not living up to his contract.
He's a moron, though.
But on the opposite end of the spectrum, we paid all that money, $7 million plus per year, to Kevin Hayes, and I don't know if I would say that he's worth every single penny of that contract, but he damn well certain is playing up to it. You know, I was kind of skeptical, as you were, about signing Kevin Hayes to that contract. What was it, 7 years, $49 million?
Mm-hmm.
And the jury is still out as to whether or not it's going to be worth it in the long run, but certainly right now, the way that he's played this season, he's been very valuable to this team. Very valuable to this team.
Very cliche, and this is a hockey podcast, so we have to be full of cliches here, but he is a 200-foot hockey player. You know, he is a definitively good two-way hockey player. You know, and he does all the fundamental things that you hope for really, really well. You know, and with Kevin Hayes, with Claude Giroux, and Sean Couturier, you have three like natural centers who are really good 200-foot hockey players. We should be a better hockey team than we are, but then we have to travel, and apparently we can't figure that out.
And one thing about Kevin Hayes, his offensive production, not that the Flyers have anybody who's really been lighting up the goal column, but he's second on the team in goal scoring, one behind Konechny.
Yeah. And
obviously Lindblom with the cancer, he was the team's leading goal scorer when he went down, and he probably would still be if he was still playing. But
man, I don't even think we've had a pod since this all happened for Oscar. But man, you do look, you want to set the hockey stuff aside, right? But it's impossible to separate the two. We wouldn't know Oscar Lindblom if it wasn't for the platform and the stage that he's on with Philadelphia Flyers, right? So it's only natural to talk about some of those things. And I see a lot of people on Twitter that, saying like, he's a human first. He is a human first, but he's also a hockey player, and like for a lot of his 23, 24 years on this earth, he has been a hockey player as his main part of his existence. And he was damn good this year. And the one thing, since his diagnosis, he has not been with the team. And this week he was finally, I don't want to say reintroduced to the team, but the team finally saw him again. And seeing the way that Alain Vigneault, spoke to him and about him, awesome. Seeing, like, that's the kind of rejuvenation that I do think can help rally a team. I think at the moment that it happened, you can see two different stories, progressing. It's either the team that rallies behind that or the team that is emotionally just punched in the stomach and they got nothing left right now because they're brothers, in a really not good way. And the Flyers went down that road. And look, I can't say that I would be any different. Like, you're heartbroken for the kid because he is a human being. But I'm hoping now that, he received his first round of treatments. He was able to see the team. And like I said, there was elation in that locker room. And I mean, you've been down there when things are good. You've been down there when things are bad. And I have to imagine that this is one of those days that was really special for the whole team. And this one could potentially help lift them to, another lengthy, good streak of hockey.
And one would hope, especially, they're going to need a lift with these 3 games coming up. They got Tampa, Boston, St. Louis. Their next 3 games. They're going to need some sort of energy, some sort of momentum going into those games. But we saw, as you said, right after the diagnosis, they went on that road trip, Minnesota, Colorado, Winnipeg, I think it was, lost all 3 of those games in very not impressive fashion. But then they came home, they had the game against Anaheim where I believe they had the Oscar Strong shirts that they gave up to the crowd. Yeah. And they came out, they won that game 4-1, then they blew out Buffalo their next game after that. So they did kind of eventually rally around it, and maybe we're seeing that again now that he's back with the team.
Yeah, look, I'm hoping so for a lot of different standpoints. It's again, this is one of those things that this is bigger than hockey. But one thing that you had mentioned earlier is the fact that the kind of lack of goal scoring, and Oscar was a great finisher all year for us while he was here. And we haven't really seen. So there's so many similarities here in Philadelphia between all of our sports, right? So many certain things happen throughout these seasons, and we'll take the Eagles since it just happened, that you can't plan for. Like you can't plan. You can plan for Deshaun Jackson missing a couple weeks, but you can't plan on him missing essentially the entire season, right? You can't plan on your entire receiving corps like entering into the season was number 1 or projected to be number 1 receiving corps in the NFL. Not one of them playing in a playoff game. You can't project all those things, but the team somehow needs to rally, right? So what the Eagles did, their superstar was their superstar. Carson Wentz proved after a really bad few weeks that he was the guy, and he those last 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, whatever it was, he was electrically good again, and he was doing it with nobodies. But then you have to sit there and you do have to account for those nobodies. And for the Flyers now, we are in a period of time where we need a superstar or our superstars or stars to exceed an expectation that anyone could have put on them prior to the season. Like Claude Giroux is going to have to go in there. And if he was expected to score 100 points this year, hey man, we need 115 out of you. And then same thing for Couturier, same thing for Hayes. Like they need to elevate their games to a particular place to help out these guys, but it can't be just that. The Flyers need to find their Boston Scott, their Greg Wards, their Josh Schwetz to come in and fill in. They need their 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th cornerbacks. Like they need those guys. They need the Obi Kubels to find some consistency. They need Mikhail Vorobiev and Phil Myers, who both light the world up in the AHL. They need that to translate to the NHL. They need Sanheim to find consistency. They need someone within that group of emerging rookies or first, second, third year players to find something that the team can lean on and help shoulder that.
Maybe even finally some sort of offensive outburst from Scott Lawton. This is a guy who, coming up through juniors, I always thought that he had a pretty high offensive ceiling, and he hasn't really tapped into that yet in his NHL career. And I think that if one of those guys is going to break out, then Lawton might be the guy who does it. Because I'm looking at it right now, through 24 games, he's got 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 total points, which isn't a great total output, but he's the kind of guy who, like I said, with his skill set, he could go and put together some scoring streaks, point streaks, goal streaks, that kind of thing. So it would be nice to see him get going.
So I've always loved Scott Lawton. I don't know that I ever saw him being like some massive point getter. I did see him more as a very like a Sean Couturier-esque kind of guy. Like he was going to play in all facets of the game, and he was going to be good. And he is that. Like he's not asked to be a point getter. And maybe you're right. Like maybe seeing him, get some ice time with some different guys there and putting him in a position to, maybe not facilitate plays, but to finish plays, and maybe not be out there as he's almost a specialist at times. He could. My only concern is the fact that he's been in the league for 6 years, and it hasn't come yet. And that he's been here through 3 coaches as well, I believe. So at a certain 3 or 4 coaches, like at a certain point, it just might not be who the guy is. But I'm not saying he can't get his Jeremy Lin moment.
I guess what I was saying was a couple of years ago, I think it was the 15-16 season or somewhere around there, Michael Raffle, who's not a goal scorer really at all.
Scored 12 or 20.
Yeah, he had a 20-goal season. He only had like 5 assists that year, but he
I
had
love
20
Mike
goals.
Raffle.
And if he can do that, then I think Lawton certainly is capable of, having a season where he can break out and score 18, 19, 20 goals.
Yeah, well, Shane Gostisbehere was a hockey player at one point, too. Like, he's been garbage this year.
Yeah, the Flyers,
really for the last several.
I'm not going to... I mean, I hate to be that guy, but the Flyers might actually somehow benefit from not having him in the lineup for the next few weeks.
Steve and I have vehemently supported Gostisbehere because we saw that 65-point season as not a fluke. We saw a skill set that he was never asked to really use at any level. Like, he was never that offensively minded. Like, he was an offensively gifted player, but he was a defenseman. Like, he just kind of was what he was. He was a really good skater. But man, like, I would love to hear someone at this point, and it's a damn shame Steve is as sick as he is right now and that he's unable to be here. But I would love to hear someone defend him and have anything behind it that makes sense, because that kid cannot play hockey. He cannot play the position of defense. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's been ugly this year. I think it's a confidence issue. I think it's definitely a confidence issue with him. Because when you can tell when he goes out there and he has a little bit of swagger and he's playing with some confidence, he's, it just looks totally different. Offensively, his shots are hitting the net. Defensively, he's not out there turning the puck over. He's playing in good position, but his confidence level is at an all-time low right now. And it has been really since the beginning of last season.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think Philadelphia's a tough market. Like, we've discussed that ad nauseum as well. Like, Philadelphia's a bad market to have a slump in for a week, let alone 3 years.
Yeah, we're talking about guys from Florida.
Yeah, like
it's not really... There's not a lot of pressure on pro athletes down in Florida.
And how the fuck many people in Florida are watching hockey? Like,
what, the 2 people are good? I mean, they like it in Tampa, but the 2 people are good at Florida.
I don't know why they like it in Tampa. Tampa is like the Toronto Raptors of hockey, except removing the obvious last year championship, 2-year championship. Last year? Whenever the fuck it was.
Yeah. For Toronto, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Tampa's got their cup from...
Yeah, but that was like, what, 9 years ago?
That was more than that. It was like 15.
Was it really that long ago?
Yep.
Jesus.
I mean...
Vinny! I miss him.
Yeah. Fuck Vinny.
He was such a bad contract here. It was so
Vinny, that was terrible. The only thing I'll ever remember Vinny Lecavalier for is the time that he hit all 3 posts and the puck didn't go in. That's play
the
right there. It pretty much summed up Vinny's career with the Flyers.
His half a season or whatever it was,
something like that.
But yeah.
Getting back to Gostisbehere though, you're right. Playing in Philadelphia and going through a slump here, you've seen what we've done as fans. What we've done to Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
And Carson Wentz is a franchise quarterback. Carson Wentz is a very good quarterback, and he's going to be for the foreseeable future here as long as he can stay healthy, as long as that jackass Jadeveon Clowney doesn't come after him. Fuck that guy. But, yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz, the franchise quarterback, the guy who was the starter and got us to, 11-2 the year that we won the Super Bowl, getting torn to shreds throughout most of the season because even though statistically he is in the upper echelon of quarterbacks, he wasn't playing up to his capability. And then finally he starts playing up to his capability in the last 4 games of the season and people love him again.
It's Philadelphia. Like, you don't want to say that we're like fair weather fans, but like...
Absolutely we are.
This is a very fair weather market. Like, it's very unfortunate.
It's fair weather in a different sense, though. Like, a lot of cities you'll see fair weather as in the fans stop attending games when the teams aren't good. In Philadelphia, we keep attending the games.
No, we don't.
I mean, more so...
Like Eagles football, maybe, but like...
More so than in other markets.
But like, I went through the whole process era of the Sixers, man, and like, there were times where I was literally the only human besides the usher in the section.
Okay,
and at a certain point, the usher fucking left too. And he was like, I'm done. And then like, we've talked about the Flyers here over the last 2 seasons, that it's a library in there, that even if we are filling it out, people aren't there.
Like, even so, the Flyers... Like, they haven't really been good since 2010, and yet it took them probably about 5 or 6 seasons to finally not be selling out every game. And same with the Phillies. I mean, their last winning season was 2011, and it took them like 2 or 3 years after that to end the sellout streak.
I don't think so.
A year or 2 at least. Because I know that the streak lasted through the 2012 season, I believe. I think it was 2013 where it finally came to an end.
Maybe. Can't even remember.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess my point is we're not really fair weather in terms of we don't show up, we don't watch the teams.
We're not Angels fans.
Yeah. We're fair weather in that when our players aren't performing well, you know, a lot of us are like, we should trade this guy, we should, bench this guy, we should start Josh McCown over Carson Wentz.
Which, by the way, love that guy.
Yeah, really with a torn hamstring.
Off the bone torn, too.
Yeah,
it's not even like, good Lord, man. Oh,
I don't know if were you able to tell on TV that he was injured, because being at the game, it was pretty hard to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wasn't right.
Yeah, that guy's a warrior, man. It's a shame he couldn't pull out the
40
win.
years old. Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, back to the hockey stuff. So we got Tampa tonight, and Carter Hart's in net, right? So Carter Hart, interesting season.
It's a home game, so he's going to play well.
Yeah. So Carter Hart on the year, 14, 10, and 3 with a 2.58 goals against and a 9.06 save percentage, right? So I don't want this to get misconstrued in any particular way, because I was pretty open about saying I did not think this is going to be a particularly good season for Carter Hart in his first full season of NHL action, and as with a goaltender behind him that you can't always rely on from a health standpoint. So I thought it was going to be a trying kind of a season for him, and again, totally new system. Steve mentioned that before. I think Isaiah, when you had him on from OMB Puck with Steve, that was something the two of them had discussed as well. Learning a new defensive, kind of play style in front of him. There was a lot going on. Right now, man, holy shit! This is how do you teach a 19, or what is he, 22 now?
He's 21. 21.
How do you teach a 21-year-old to suddenly be able to travel on the road and play a game in an opposing arena?
The guy's still just figuring out how to drink alcohol.
Fuck.
It has it right here. He's 21 years, 151 days, so he hasn't even had half a year yet of being able to drink, let alone travel with a professional hockey team.
It is crazy.
I'm pulling up he's bad on the road. He's been bad. He's 2-9-1 in 15 games. He's been pulled from a number of them. He's got a 850 save percentage and a 401 goals against. Whereas at home, get this, he's 12-1-2 with a 945 save percentage and a 152 goals against.
Yeah, none of that shocks me.
That's insane. He's played 15 games at home, 15 games on the road. Mm-hmm. So the splits are even, and the difference is ridiculous.
And again, it's technically sophomore year, and this is a notoriously difficult year for goaltenders, especially. We've seen some of the greatest. We've talked about that quite often here. This is, you expect some trying circumstances in games for Carter Hart. But look, man, fuck, is he bad? He is leaky arm. I can't. It's not. I'm not even watching the same goaltender. I know it sounds like I'm not even speaking English right now because I can't formulate thoughts because it doesn't make sense to me. I watch a kid who's so smooth and so confident at home, and he's because he's not a big guy, so he needs to anticipate correctly, and he needs to have excellent positioning, and that is what he relies on to be very studied, to understand the flow of the game, and to kind of see these movements like a chess player, cliches on cliches here, before it happens. He's great with that at home. On the road, it's a totally different guy. I don't understand where that breakdown happens. Now, sometimes I will admit, sometimes the defense looks awful on the road. They just look flat out bad. And there's breakdowns and there's times where they don't clear the puck. And that's kind of a forward problem as well. That leads to those extended shifts in his zone. And sometimes you just get tired, man, and that slot opens up. But that's where Carter saves you at home, and he ain't saving you on the road right now. It's tough.
And it doesn't make any sense because, you've got to deal with the crowd, which in most NHL arenas really isn't that big of a deal. Places like Carolina and Arizona where they struggle, those places are mostly empty. But I don't know what it is. I'm kind of torn because part of me is saying, okay, just give Brian Elliott the majority of the road starts, which they've been giving him a few of them lately, and then give Carter Hart the majority of the home starts. But at the same time, being a young goalie, you want to work out those road struggle kinks, I guess, early on in the career.
Yeah, so I heard that shockingly, on Sports Talk, on 94.1, someone called in with a Flyers question, and they took it. Didn't know that those calls got put through, but apparently they do. 2020, whole new year, crazy. But yeah, that's what someone had mentioned. They were like, look, if this is a known problem and there's enough talent on this team to get you into the playoffs and maybe make a run, like, why not just, hey, Carter's your home goaltender and, Elliott is the away guy. And I'm like, well, that's fucking dumb. What are you going to do in the playoffs? Like, if the kid can't learn, this team's not going to win a cup this year. They're probably not going to win a cup next year either. Like, their entire thing is let's make the playoffs again. Let's get all of our guys some playoff exposure. Let's play a competitive series. Hopefully we eke one out. But this is a fully new coaches room and bench there. It's like a rotating carousel right now of AHL players coming up trying to stick. The Lindblom situation, second year Carter Hart, Elliott's 103. Like, this team is not winning this year or next. So let's expose a young Carter Hart to as much as we can while we can. And I will say in defense of Alain Vigneault, where a lot of people come after, take Carter out now, take him out now, take him out. He's back-to-back goals early on in the first, just get him the hell out. No, I don't care if they hang a 10 spot on him in the first period. I'm not saying every night.
Let him have his Patrick Waugh moment.
Exactly. Good reference. There's a lot to be said about, allowing your goaltender to learn to succeed through failure. And I think that these first 2 full years of hockey for Carter Hart, I think he's going to learn a lot of that. And if he's still a Flyer for the duration of his career, we'll be thankful about that.
Brings up my favorite term, baptism by fire.
Yes.
I mean, he's exactly what you said. If they make the playoffs, which they should, then they're not going to. You can't platoon goalies in the playoffs. You can't go back to what they did in 2011 and try 3 different goalies against Buffalo or whatever it was. No, you've got to have your solid number 1 starter who's going to go out there for every single game in the playoffs. And if you're going to do that, then obviously Carter Hart is going to need to play on the road. Now, hopefully they'll be able to do well enough that maybe they can get home ice advantage for a first-round series, which they would have to leapfrog the Islanders to do that, and the Penguins. It's unlikely, but it's still possible. But yeah, he's going to need to play road hockey in the playoffs regardless. So you might as well work out those kinks during the regular season while the games have a little bit less importance.
Yeah, I mean, looking at, and this is, we're talking about this like it's just a Carter Hart issue. It's not. Clearly it's not. Obviously there are some games out there on the road where Carter's letting in a couple bad goals, and it's happening pretty quick into the start of these games. And that does really set the tone, and you're playing catch up immediately, and that is hard. But there are games where maybe he lets up 2 bad goals right away, but then he's pretty solid after that. And the offense doesn't really do. The forwards group don't really do a lot to help him. There's not a lot of scoring there. You mentioned it. Oscar Lindblom still 3rd on the team in goals scored, and he's missed the last several weeks. Travis Konechny exploded in his first several weeks on the season. Then he's just been he has a couple game stretches here and there, but then he'll go quiet for 6 games, and and he's right now. Is he still leading in all 3 categories right now? By the way, or is Jake Voracek leading in assists?
He's still leading in goals. He is tied with Couturier for second in assists, yes, behind Voracek, yeah. And he's still leading in points.
Okay,
has a 2-point lead over Couturier.
Okay, so like I said, this team, they're scoring, but where you have everything up right now. Where is the team in terms of goals per game in the league stats there?
I don't have that up. I know where to find it though. I can look it up real quick. I think they were right around the middle of the pack last I saw.
So, and if that is where they are, and that's kind of where I assume them to be, when you're having those type of road struggles, those are the nights where you need more offensive output to kind of help rein your goaltender in a little bit and give him some confidence and have that clean slate again. If it's 2-0 quick, let it be 2-2 and let them get that fresh start.
Yeah, so they are 14th in goals for per game, so right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Which, not terrible. They don't have that explosive scorer, but they have a number of guys up and down the lineup who can contribute goals often enough to keep them in hockey games and win some hockey games.
What's the points like right now in our defensive group? So it's like Phil Myers had a little bit of a streak there. Travis Sanheim has had like 2 different streaks and then kind of been like meh other than that.
Provi is leading the pack. He's got 9, 15, 24.
Okay.
After that, we got Niskanen, 5, 12, 17.
I love Matt Niskanen, man.
Yeah, that was a
him
really...
and Braun, and that's something else we haven't really talked about. Braun being out. Like, it's just, it's tough.
Yeah, that's another void that they're going to need to fill. I think they called up Friedman.
Yeah.
From
the AHL.
Which is one of the few NHL caliber teams that they have on that pretty terrible Phantoms team right now.
They are not good.
I actually went to a game the other weekend that was the most boring hockey game I've ever seen in my life.
It's crazy.
3-0 to Hershey.
Steve and I used to go to games, fairly often. And Stephanie and I as well. And like I always had more fun at those games during some of the Hackstall era here than what I had at Flyers games.
Well, yeah, it's hard to be more boring than the Dave Hackstall Flyers.
Dave Hackstall Flyers. You're very true, but like, I don't know, man. They should be good. Like, they have Morgan Frost down there. Joel Farabee started the year. Phil Myers started the year down there. German Rubstov, a guy who had so much potential and then just can't seem to stay healthy. He's down there. Mikhail Vorobiev knows how to be a hockey player in the AHL and AHL only. Friedman, career, AHLer. There's so much. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like fucking Alex Lyon is still a person, and like I really don't need that in the AHL like at all.
I'll say this though: the game that I went to, he was the only guy who actually showed up for the team because Hershey had like
was he 40 years old now? Like, he's had how many games of AHL experience? Fuck that guy.
Hershey had like 40 something shots on goal, and he only let in 3. So, but yeah, I mean,
not great,
but not terrible. For a goaltending perspective.
Sure.
Figuring that the rest of the team just didn't show up at all in that game.
Yeah, massively frustrating, I would assume.
But, yeah, and speaking of, you said Morgan Frost's back down on loan to the Phantoms right now. That's something that's definitely worth talking about. He came out guns blazing in his first couple games. I think he scored in, 2 of his first 3 games? Or each of his first 2 games. And then went the final 16 games after that without scoring a goal. That's not to say that he wasn't productive. He ended up with 2 goals and 5 assists in his 18 games. So he certainly was doing some things out there offensively, but obviously the coaching staff and the front office saw room for improvement that, he would be better suited down the AHL with more ice time to work on his game.
Yeah, and I think it was Raffle coming back at the time?
Yeah, Raffle sounds right.
Yeah, I think Raffle was coming back. And look, Raffle can play all 3 forward positions and on all 4 lines, and he kills penalties. So it was kind of a, I think, who the hell was up? Because Obi Kubel was up at the time as well, and they couldn't send him down because he's out of options.
Yeah, he's still up.
So he'd be pressed on the waivers. So it was more like a circumstance thing. I don't really think that it was like, hey, Morgan Frost, we're giving up on you. It was like, hey, we kind of have to abuse the options you have left. I have no long-term concerns about Morgan Frost. I think he's still figuring out how to use his smaller frame. And that is something that I do feel like in the AHL he'll learn from, and he'll learn how to use his body and how to position himself to withstand some of the board play, because man, he gets beat a lot, and he's a small guy. He's got to learn, and it happens for every small hockey player. You look at the Johnny Gaudreau's, even Claude Giroux's small.
TK
is very small.
Yep.
But TK is just nastier than him though. Like, I feel like TK like came out the womb and he was like, I'm gonna fuck someone up. Like, he's I don't know. He's got like a Napoleon complex, but he's like the first Napoleon complex guy I've ever liked in my life. But yeah, like, I think it's good for Morgan Frost to get some exposure, the AHL and at the NHL. I'm not mad that he's back down at the AHL right now. I wish that the team around him was better and that he was playing with better line mates more consistently. I do think it's kind of hard to, even when you're playing good hockey, when you're looking at the stat sheet every night and you're like, well, shit, like I had 3 shots on goal and that's it. I do think that like mentally that wears on someone, and especially a kid who just got sent back down, even if it was for circumstance and not for performance. And not to say that it wasn't for performance. He started going a little quiet there. But it wouldn't shock me if he's a guy that's called back up in a couple weeks. And
next time somebody goes down.
Well, I mean, next time someone goes down, he is the guy. We both lost our bet in the NFL. You took a parlay, right?
What happened?
So, did you take?
I took
San Fran straight up.
No, I took them. No, I won my bet because I took them covering the 6.5 and the under 45.5, and there were 37 total points scored, and they won.
All right.
Well, 27-10. So yeah, I covered on my bet.
Well, there you go.
So now on to
Cheers, sir.
The third and fourth parts of my parlay, which are the Titans covering tonight, and I think I took the under in that game as well.
Smart. The weather's shit.
Yeah.
I think I took the under on that. I think I took. What did I take? Not that it matters. It's a hockey podcast. Here we are talking about betting. This is what you get when Steve is part of your podcast show. Like next thing you know, we're all addicts. Meetings on Tuesday nights, by the way. Oh. We'll see you guys there.
I made the life-changing decision of downloading the Parks Casino app on my phone, and
I just did that too.
My bank account's been taking a hit for it.
So, and like this is relative to both, NFL sidebar that we're having right now, and hockey. So I do bet on hockey quite a bit, and FanDuel crashes every goddamn week. It is such a pain to use those people. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm out of the FanDuel game. So I'm like, I emailed the customer support the night that like everyone was losing their shit last week. It was right before the Eagles game. I was looking to change my bet. I had a last minute feeling. I was like, all right, man, I think I know what I want to do here. Couldn't do it because you couldn't get in until midway through the third quarter. And I was like, fuck you guys. Like and would have won the bet. I was so pissed off. So anyway, so I'm sitting there, and again, I bet on hockey a lot, and so it's relevant to this conversation in some particular respect. Not really. I'm just pissed at FanDuel, but yeah, like I emailed our customers. I'm like, just fucking close my account. Send me a check with whatever's in my account and fucking close it. And they're like, are you sure, sir? Would $25 help? And I'm like, fucking no. Take a look at the balance that you're sending me in my check. Tell me if $25 makes a fucking difference. Like, how about not? I've had a good year. How about not? And they're like, well, we didn't take a look at that yet, but now that we see it, would $100 help? And I'm like, you eat my ass. Absolutely. Just close the fucking account. And they're like, sir, would $100 help? I'm like, I swear to God, stop. So now I too am on the Parks. My first bet, though, I lost. So we'll see.
I think that's a good segue into our little Rage Room segment here. But before we do that, I just want to let everyone know you can find us, the new Disciples of Ed Twitter handle, at Disciples of Ed, all one word, no underscores, none of that bullshit, just Disciples of Ed on Twitter.
Funny every time you say that.
You can still find the Always Next Year podcast, the whole network of podcasts on Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can find our personals. I am at radio_Rob. Shane, where can we find you?
Shane_Mead. And you can also find me at, I think it's Whiskey Ramble Pod now. I can't remember what it is. But that is the other show so far that has gone out on its own. I will eventually find it. I guess that's an easier way. I'm already logged in. All right. Yeah. So it's just at Whiskey Ramble PC. And if you follow us, you will be the first. I don't think we've marketed it yet. So welcome.
Well, you're marketing it to me because I still haven't followed you guys, and I didn't even know you had one yet, so I will give you guys a follow as soon as we're done the show.
Do it to it, man.
All right. And you can also find us on Spotify, on iTunes, basically anywhere that you can listen to the podcast. We're there. If you're on iTunes, please give us a rating, give us a review. It will be very much appreciated.
Yeah, get us started on the right foot here.
Absolutely. Or I'll find you.
You will.
Anyway... Going on to our Rage Room moment of the week. What is the moment in the past week that has pissed you off so much that you would want to visit the Rage Room at the Wells Fargo Center?
All right, so I have like 40 this week. I had a not great week, but I'm gonna pick one, and I'm gonna pick one because it's ridiculous, and nobody else would probably pick it. But I had to go down to the city for training again for work, and I feel like every other week I'm down in the city for something. So get off the train, walk up onto the blocks, and there we are. I'm walking like a person, like an adult in a suit. Because I'm a fucking adult, and there are a bunch of other adults on those damn things that you just stand on. They have no hand. It's just it looks like a skateboard, but like invert, like it's just for your feet, and like it lights up different LED colors.
Those weird hoverboard things,
whatever it is, and like you lean away or you think about going away, and it goes that way. Except everyone that was out there. I don't know if this was like about to be one of those like flash mob things or what. There's like 15 of them out there, so a very small flash mob. But not one of those people know how to direct themselves, and two of them ran into me, and I'm like, oh fuck, everybody's day up right now. I am not about this shit. Then I hit a food truck, and everything was better. But if you are a grown person and you are on one of those goofy ass hoverboards, just know that I fucking hate you. Like you are a piece of shit human.
What kind of adult does that shit?
I don't know, man. Like,
I mean, how hard is it to just walk?
Just be a person. And like some of those people, like I'm concerned as to how the hell their weight has been supported on this hoverboard.
And the weight certainly isn't going to go down if they're using those hoverboards.
That's what I'm saying. Like, fuck these people, man. I'm so bitterly angry.
Yeah, that's certainly something to be angry about. That would drive me nuts as well.
And if you're fucking tone deaf, you can like music. I'm not saying that you are not allowed to like music. I encourage everyone, even those who are tone deaf, to love music. But if you are tone deaf, you're not allowed to whistle, you're not allowed to hum, and you're not allowed to sing. Not in public, not even alone in your shower. You are fucking banned.
Well, whistling in public should be banned anyway.
Whistling in public is pretty terrible. But yeah, so if you're in close proximity to someone who does that all the time, it is worse than prison, or at least what I imagine prison to be like. You're an asshole. Like, go take some lessons, or maybe just sit there quietly and be like, this is a good song. And you can say that, and that's it.
Yeah. Certainly agreed with that sentiment right there. So, my Rage Room moment of the week, having gone to the Eagles game on Sunday. Fuck you, Jadeveon Clowney, you dirty fucking piece of shit. I hope you blow out. I hope that when the Seahawks come back to Philadelphia next year, I hope he blows out both of his knees and he gets the Michael Irvin treatment.
Oh my god, man!
Fuck that guy, man. I mean, that was they're on the radio debating on whether or not it's intentional what he did to Wentz. It absolutely was. I saw the replay like 17 times after the game. After I got home from the game, he tucked his arm back just so that he could lead with his helmet into Wentz's head and drive it into the ground. You're not going to tell me that wasn't done intentionally. Fuck you, Jadeveon Clowney. That is my Rage Room moment of the week, because the Eagles would have won that game if Carson Wentz was healthy.
Of course they would have won the game if Carson Wentz was healthy. I would never wish injury upon anyone. I'm not that type of guy. And I think it's because I've blown my knee out, like, I don't know, no less than 143 times at this point. So I wouldn't wish that, but...
So Jadeveon Clowney can deal with having it happen to both knees once.
God, no. But I am embarrassed for the NFL. I'm embarrassed for the officiating crew. It's a really...
Oh, and not
really
even a fine. Look. Not even a fine.
Yeah. Like, Rob, I'm flipping you off in studio right now. I would get fined $15,000 in the NFL. But if I hit you helmet to helmet into the turf, I guess it's just a handshake and I'm sorry.
Yep. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, it's brutal. Absolutely fucking brutal.
All right, well, getting back to the main topic at hand in this podcast, the Philadelphia Flyers. Coming up, they've got a pretty tough road. Oh, they're going to be at home. They're at home against Tampa right now. I believe that game is still scoreless. I haven't checked. They dropped the puck about a half hour ago.
Yep.
After that, hosting the Bruins, who were an elite NHL team. Then on the road for one quick stop in St. Louis, visiting the defending Stanley Cup champions. It's a little bit easier for a couple games. They have Montreal and the Kings. The Kings, though, just beat them out in LA. Then they have a back-to-back separated by 10 days against the Penguins. I guess that's... I don't know if that's like that little... the week off thing. Break. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because they're off from the 21st to the 31st. But a couple games against the Penguins there. So... some tough sledding coming up for the Flyers. What do you think the key is for them to be able to hang with some of these upper echelon teams and pull out some wins in this tough stretch?
So I actually do think that we have enough talent on the roster as is right now, and with the few rotating parts that come up from the AHL. Obviously, there are some things, the Braun injury, the Oscar Lindblom situation. Like, there's some things that would make this far easier. But for me, I'm going to take it back to what I was saying earlier. Like, at a certain point, this team, either a star on the team or a definitive leader like Carson Wentz was for the Eagles has to step up, or a group of leaders. I think it's more important in hockey that several guys kind of exceed the expectations that people put upon them. When things aren't going well, and then going to be looking to find those Boston Scotts, Greg Wards, Josh Sweats, and 14th and 15th cornerbacks. I'm going to be looking for continued consistency from Nick Obi-Kubel, who I love. And then beyond that, I like what you said about Lawton, so I'm gonna kind of rob you of that one right now. I would like to see some more offense out of him if given the opportunity. So I think that was a good pull by you.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think the potential is there for him to be that guy who scores in the upper teens to lower 20s at some point in his NHL career, and maybe it'll be, maybe he can show that potential this year, but it remains to be seen. I think the biggest thing for the Flyers coming up is, out of their next 10 games, 7 are at the Wells Fargo Center. As we mentioned before, they play so much better at home. Tonight against Tampa at home, they got Boston at home, they've got Montreal, LA, Pittsburgh, and then Colorado, another very tough team, all at the Wells Fargo Center. Those are games that, if they're on the road, they would probably lose. But since they're playing at home, they've played so well at home, they've got a shot to win every single one of those games. And that's going to be a big difference for them. I think that they play a lot more confident in front of the home fans of the Wells Fargo Center. Even though they're playing in front of some empty seats, they seem a lot more confident when they're out there on the ice, and they seem a lot more energized than when they go out on the road. So having 7 of the next 10 at home certainly should be a boost for them.
Yeah, I agree. I do think also, and I said this going into the season with all the new coaches, the new personnel that's here. This was going to be a season that was very up and down. And I do think that this, forced bye week type of thing that's coming up in like a week and a half, whenever it's coming up, I think it's coming at a good time. Wait, that isn't the All-Star weekend yet, right?
It might be. I
just realized that we're already in January. Yeah. Like everything's flying around.
Yeah,
I think it's
by.
Holy shitballs. All right, so maybe that, but I think it's all coming at a good time. In terms of how the Flyers are playing, I think that mentally this is tough. I think there's a lot of young guys on this team that this is the first time that they're traveling like this. This is the first time that they're obvious. This is the first thing for everything. So I think it'll be that good minute to kind of collect your breath. I actually think, and I can't remember if this was my bold prediction last week or if it's in my notes for this week for Crossing Borders over with Connor over there on Unwrapped. But I think the Flyers are going to be a top 5 team in all the NHL for the second half of the season. I do think that they write some things, and I think that it'll start after that break. So I'm excited to see what they can do.
They have the talent to do it. They certainly. I think one of the biggest things, if they're going to achieve that, Claude Giroux is on like a 60-point for the season pace right now. They need to get him up to, in the second half of the season, playing on like a 90-point pace, which just 2 years ago he had, like 102 points, I believe. So he certainly has it in him. He needs to step his game up a little bit. He's still, even with these younger players coming in, he's still the heart and soul of the Flyers. He's still the captain. He's still supposed to be the best player out there on the ice for him, even though guys like Konechny at times and a few other guys have outperformed him this year. He's still supposed to be that best player, and we need to see him go ahead and do that. We need to see him go ahead and put together, multi-point games, 2, 3, 4-point games. We need to see him go on a hot streak where, he goes through a 20-game stretch where he puts 30 points up or something like that.
Would you... So, I would very much so. And I know like it's tough with the depth and with different things and constant moving pieces right now in the Flyers organization. But at his age, you just kind of make him definitively that wing right now and just let him just roll and just tell him, hey, we fucking need points. And just that's kind of it.
It worked for him 2 years ago.
Like we have 3 great face-off men. We can afford to have him not take face-offs like as frequently as he takes them.
I mean, the Flyers are actually statistically the best team in the whole NHL in face-offs.
Every time that it doesn't necessarily matter. They will not win face-offs on penalty kills. That just doesn't happen. And they will also not win face-offs on frozen pucks on power plays. It's just special team face-off percentages. And I might just be frustrated because I feel like those are ones you have to win.
Well, especially on the power play.
It's bad. Like,
you got to win those offensive zone draws and get set up.
Yeah, but it's fucking maddening. But yeah, I mean... I do think that there's a way to make Claude Giroux incredibly consistent. There's a mindset that he can tap into. Like he was a killer guy out there on the ice when he didn't have to be like the captain, the guy, the facilitator, the scorer, the defensive, minded two-way. Like when they were like, "Hey, Claude, go out and do the thing. Do that thing that we love." And he just went out there and he had creativity and he was just, "I'm just going to fucking shoot." He didn't have that now. Like there is no killer instinct with him, at least not that he's showing. There's always a passiveness to him, and there's always like this, like, man, I got to get these other guys involved. Fucking, you don't, man. When we all see what kind of shot you have, how quick your wrists are, how creative you can be in open ice, and even in small spaces with the puck, like you could be still, even at the age of 32, 33, whatever he is, very dominant in terms of points, goals in particular. Whatever you could do to beat that into his head, that may be the defining thing that changes the season around. I do think Alain Vigneault is a guy that could do that, but I think at this point, Alain Vigneault is probably on the other side of that equation saying, we need you to make the guys around you better.
Yeah, and putting him at wing, I think it'll be a great solution. We saw it 2 years ago when he was primarily...
because he is a wing at times.
He was primarily at right wing 2 seasons ago, if I remember correctly. For the most part, he had a few games where he's at center, but for the most part, at least in the latter part of that season, he was a right wing, and he put up 102 points. He had the best season statistically of his NHL career. He set a career high
at 30
in goals. I think he also set a career high or second best in assists that year. He was all over the ice. He was basically just busting a nut all over everybody, and he was an unstoppable force that year, and he pretty much single-handedly carried them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And 102 points playing in Dave Hackstall's system.
Yeah, so, where third periods don't matter.
Yep. So if he could do that,
and
then
first periods never happened. So.
You put him at right wing in AV's system, I think that the results could be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, on a consistent basis. Because again, he plays both. He's kind of just everywhere. But yeah, man, I don't know. I have a strange feeling of optimism despite all the things that we've seen.
As do I. I think the Flyers, looking at the schedule right now, they do have the majority of their remaining games at home. They have a couple they have like a 3-game road trip, which is the Islanders and then both Florida teams. And then other than that, they don't have more than 2 games on the road at a time. So all their West Coast trips are done. All their extended road trips are done. They're going to be playing more at home than on the road throughout the remainder of the season, which is going to be a big help to them. I could see it. I could see them going on a little bit of a run here. I could see them doing well enough that they jump into the top 3 in the Metro and maybe even make a push for that 2nd seed and home ice in the first round of the playoffs.
I hope so. I don't know. Like I'm confident, but I don't know the level of my confidence. Well, I guess I do, because I said 10 minutes ago that I felt like they were going to be a top 5 team in the second half. So I guess for me, it depends on how they kind of close out these last 7, 8 games, whatever it is, before they get there. All-Star break or bye. I am losing all
it might
track
be
of space
2
and
combined
time.
into 1 there because they have like 10 days off.
Yeah, who the fuck knows? but yeah, like I said, we'll see how it all goes for him. But I feel good about where the team is at as a whole in this process.
You have any final thoughts that you want to throw in before we wrap up this episode here? And you want to get to watching some playoff football tonight?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time for the second game. My final thought is the fact that it comes in response to the alert we just got. But I guess the Fanavision over at the Flyers game showed Oscar Lindblom, and they gave him a standing ovation. So I know for damn sure I'd be crying if I were there right now. But man, I think my final thought for this and every show at this point is just going to be, just here for Oscar, man.
Absolutely.
I hope this kid is, getting everything that he needs and he gets some good results soon. So, but yeah, special kid, seems like a hell of a human. So, and look, you don't want that to happen to anyone, even if you're a shit human. Yeah. So, not even Jadeveon Clowney, Rob. Wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I would not wish cancer upon Clowney. Torn ligaments can heal,
God.
And cancer can go away, but cancer's a lot more serious. So I definitely would not wish that upon Jadeveon Clowney.
Well, that's good. At least you have some moral compass.
Very little, but it's there.
God. Meanwhile, just go ahead. You can close it out.
All right, well, my final thought is if you're looking for something to munch on during the Flyers game, Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, located in Buckingham Green off York Road. In Buckingham, also, they have a location at Delaware Valley University.
I just went there today.
Did you really?
I did.
Right down the street from my house.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, Just Food is probably the best. It is the best place to go for your catering options, or basically anything you want to eat for any event, whether it's tailgating a Flyers game, whether it's a football game, whether you just feel like eating food for no reason at all. Go to Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, once again located in Buckingham Green and at Delaware Valley University. Treat yourself, take it home. So that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Disciples of Ed. Once again, you can find us on Twitter at Disciples of Ed. You can find the Always Next Year Podcast Network at ANY Podcast. You can find our personals. I'm at radio_Rob. Shane, where are you?
Shane_Mead.
And you can find us on iTunes, on Spotify, on Spreaker, basically anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're on iTunes, once again, give us a rating, give us a review. We would like to start off on the right foot, and that would certainly help us out a lot. So thank you for listening to this episode of Disciples of Ed. We'll have another one coming up for you next week.